Our mission statement of Indivisible Huron Valley is to actively protect, defend, and promote the principles of democracy for all people. And I think those last three words are really the most important part of that whole mission, and that is for all people. Unfortunately, not all people in our society are given the same kinds of opportunities that the rest of us are. Tonight's program, I think, is something that it will be interesting for all of us. We're going to learn a lot about something that we probably don't know a lot about, and it's important that we know about and be educated about. I've put on everyone's seat a list of county commissioners. And
Sherry?
Yes.
Can I say that Gwen Markham is the county commissioner from the Novi area, and she has adopted us because, especially those of us in District 7, because we really don't have good representation. It's very unresponsive. So, it's on the county website, Gwen Markham.
Yes.
And she comes to a lot of our meetings.
And one of the things that I meant to do, and I really apologize for not doing it, is putting down the website, www.oakgov.maps. And if you go there, you get a map of all the districts, and you just touch on it, and it gives you the name of the representative and their contact information. And I'd like to introduce Julia Galliker, who is with Michigan Liberation, which is a statewide group that's dedicated to doing away with mass incarceration. And I'm not going to say anything more. I'm going to give it right after this.
Earl Burton, and he can manage from here on out.
Yes, my name is Earl Burton, and I'm a Justice Fellow with Michigan Liberation. I'll tell you a little bit about who we are. Michigan Liberation is a nonprofit criminal justice reform organization. We're a statewide organization, and we work in coalition with other groups to share our values. We're a community organization, but we focus on the county level, on reform on the county level. Right now we have teams in Oakland, Wayne, and Kalamazoo County. Our Oakland County team is based in Pontiac, but we're trying to expand to other places in Oakland County also. Okay, this graphic slide here shows the interlocking network of social, economic, and racial factors that contribute to and shape criminal justice reform. This graphic is a power graphic, and it shows where we fit in. We're a power organization. We, meet with other community organizations like churches and civic groups, service organizations that can deal with the immediate needs of impacted persons, and advocacy groups that, single calls that are reactive or proactive. We are a group of highly trained, professional organizers and a diverse group of professionals and impacted persons such as myself. I'm an impacted person. I've recently, within the last year, been released from the Michigan Department of Corrections, having served 28 years. I became involved with this almost by happenstance. I got a cell phone, saw a flyer for an organization, not this one, but the address caught my attention because it was at the church that I grew up in, and my father had pastored for 50 years. So out of curiosity, I went to see what it was about. I met this woman here, Alicia Johnson, who is the executive co-director, and as they say, the rest is history. And with that being said, I'm going to turn the mic over to Bernard Gill.
Thank you all for allowing us to be here today. The first slide here is a map of Oakland County. And why are we talking about Oakland County in particular today? Is because there's great economic disparity in Oakland County. Oakland County today appears to be a very economically affluent county on the one hand, but there's a lot of poverty that exists within the borders of Oakland County. It's sad because the have-nots are suffering. Oakland County has a history of being racist, from L. Brooks Patterson on down to other administrative officials. In 1971, there was a bombing of buses by an extremist organization. Yeah, they go to Ku Klux Klan bombing right here.
Does anybody remember that?
In 1971. But anyway, they wanted to stop busing, otherwise they wanted to stop the integration of certain schools. The next slide, please. These extremists, and that's a mild word for white supremacists, but they were against busing. William Waterman, he was an attorney for the NAACP at that particular time, and he talked about the huge growth of the NAG organization, which stood for National Action Group. Irene McCabe, she led a march in Washington, D.C. against busing, and she was supported then by the attorney who was L. Brooks Patterson at that particular time, who was later elected Oakland County prosecutor and then Oakland County executive. So we know that he had ties with that particular group. Why Oakland County again? And I'm just throwing this in. Because Oakland County today seemed like the Birmingham, Alabama of the past. We all know there was Bull Connor back there then trying to impede or stop the civil rights movement from taking place. He wasn't a staunch opponent of the particular civil rights movement. This today shows that 57% of the Oakland County's revenues is going toward public safety and the Justice Administration, and this doesn't even include the money spent on police officers and corrections officers, et cetera, And as citizens, we know that we should have a greater say-so in how that particular money is being spent. Talk about economic disparities. You know how it's said that we are products of our environment. Some people grow up in very, very dysfunctional environments and their choices are limited. Their choices are poor, whereas other people grow up in a more stable environment. I look at the crowd here, we all remember Ozzie and Harriet. Some people don't grow up in those type of environments. If you grow up in a dysfunctional environment, then quite naturally your choices are end up going to be poor and dysfunctional. And I like what Sherry said. Everybody should be given the opportunity. I think about the statue of Lady Justice. I think about the Statue of Liberty. I think about the United States Constitution, et cetera, We're all Americans here, and we all need to just learn how to get along and respect each other. No matter the color of our skin, no matter how we worship, let's all be Americans. God bless you all, and thank you.
Thank you, Bernard. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, it's really important. I learned, or was reinforced that Pontiac history that Bernard just shared through organizing, through sitting down, having one-on-one discussions, and I'm glad we shared that because it's still relevant, it's still important today. My name's Tim Christensen. I'm an Oakland County organizer with Michigan Liberation. And myself, how I got into organizing or how I even got upset about these type of issues connects to that history that Bernard just shared. I grew up in Birmingham. While I was there, when I was young, I was frustrated and enraged at the unequal treatments I saw for students of color in my school, for students of foster care backgrounds, students with disabilities, and yeah, students that came in school of choice with not the same economic opportunities. I saw that school to prison pipeline. As I got older, I wanted to think about law. How can I be a part of helping? And when I worked in Oakland County Circuit Court, the halls of justice, I saw a revolving door of poor folks, single mothers. I thought, this isn't right. Went to college, tried to learn what are the solutions, what policies do we pursue. There aren't a whole lot of answers out there. I was really disheartened. It wasn't until I found organizing till my perspective changed. Campaigns being put together. So when I got to meet the folks that started Michigan Liberation, I personally felt liberated, alleviated from those stresses, frustrations, anxieties I had before. And I want to tell you a little bit about who we are, how we got started, and what we do. All right. So, canvassing. Anybody here canvassed? I believe it. We're in an Indivisible group. I gotta believe that. We got our start with canvassing. Michigan Liberation is a group of relationships formed through organizing. And when the organization formed last September in 2018, we followed our gut. We did what we know well, which is go meet and find people at doors. And I want to really mark something great about our Canvas project. Started real ragtag, real thrown together, but our strategy in it. We weren't going to the same typical doors where we saw Haley Stevens lit 3 times over. We went to places where other folks weren't knocking and looking at low and free reduced lunch reports to find out where we knocked. So we knocked in mobile home communities. We knocked in Section 8 housing. In 3-4 passes in those places, we started to hear stories in communities like Auburn Hills, Waterford, White Lake, Wixom, Novi. And they said, where have you been? Right? And that was really confirmation. We didn't know we'd have to organize, but as I started knocking doors, I started thinking about my family members, friends, in Oakland County who got caught up in the criminal justice system and the hurt and dysfunction that caused. So we had all the motivation, all the reason we need to get into this fight. Canvassing, I gotta say, we do a deep canvas. Anybody heard this term, deep canvas? How often do you usually spend on the doors when you're knocking doors?
Depends who answers. Yeah.
Depends who answers, sure, right? Get some angry folks sometimes. But we really believe in this concept of that's a mini one-on-one. That's an opportunity to sit and go, have you been impacted by the criminal justice system? What are the issues out here, right? So that's been a really crucial approach to what we do. That was us just a week ago. You see some of our team, Bernard, myself, Julia, Michelle, out in Novi, braving the cold, hanging out at our favorite Tim Hortons. So, all right. I want to talk about the National Black Mother's Day Bailout. This is a program, a national thing, also very early in our organization's history, where we took a risk and we decided this is something that we should do. We spearheaded it here in Michigan. We're able to bail out here in Oakland County about seven women, most in the state. And the joy of reuniting folks with their families and getting people out was incredible, being part of this. But even more so, the lessons that we learned about the district court and the local jail has sustained us. We have plenty of work to do. Bailing out women, young women, on low-level traffic fines or tickets for disturbing the peace, otherwise known as a noise violation. Having a $500 price tag on their innocence, and losing their job, losing their home, disconnected from their family, traumatized. It's not right. We did this Mother's Day bailout as a statement of something we believe in. We need to end cash bail here in Michigan. That's one of the many one of the many active campaigns that we have going on. Yeah. So, and you'll hear more about what we learned about how the district courts operate from that bailout. Yeah. So when we started organizing after the canvas, we started showing up. I love that you all have your county commissioner things on your seat. I don't know about you all. Guilty as charged. I did not know who a county commissioner was or what they do about a year or so ago. Right? I'll be honest. I know they hand out honorariums for like athletes and stuff, but they also have a lot of power. They have power, and it was amazing political education for us to start showing up at these county commission meetings, realize they have a say on our spending and our budget on criminal justice, and have the ability to make an impact. So as we started, we were organizing, doing listening sessions at Pontiac, pizza boxes at the library, and people started showing up, and we'd say, hey, do you want to go to a county commission meeting with us? And we, right? Fun date, right? But anyway, we'd go, and the learning was incredible. We found out, met our chairman of the board, Dave Woodward. We had an opportunity to get the box banned on Oakland County government jobs. Pontiac is a place that has some of the highest parolee unemployment in the state. A massive problem. So when we found out that we could launch a campaign, learn what it feels like to be in a campaign, we engaged about, you see us huddled up around really tens and tens of folks on a campaign. Elbrook's last law he signed was our first campaign victory, ban the box, last June 2019. So really amazing opportunity, and goes to show we do, all of us in this room, have power, and we can influence how our county commissioners operate. We just showed up in our hoodies, just 4 or 5 of us, and they were real scared. It was amazing. Yeah. So we got one more slide. Yeah. And so I want to talk about, those are some of the victories we've had, right? But it's really been about learning, engaging folks, and we've built our base. We've engaged, close to a lot of people. Really, not the amount, but just the great people, great stories we've heard, and really forming an identity has been the important part of this year. But also, as Earl said, we operate on the county level. And what Michigan Liberation is focused and geared towards are these 2020 prosecutor elections. So what we've done over the last 3-4 months is formed, you saw in that last infographic, there's a lot of issues. The criminal justice system isn't just one issue. From sentencing to bail to re-entry, diversion courts, that you're going to hear more about all this stuff, juvenile lifers, wrongful convictions. We met folks that had stories, experiences, thoughts on all those, and we formed teams, and we've put together a grassroots agenda for statewide what we want to see in our prosecutors. That's what we got our year cut out. I know all of us have our year cut out, but we will be running a campaign to push these prosecutors on our demands that we formed in a grassroots way. Things like, school to prison pipeline, police surveillance, juvenile justice, etc. So that's what we're in right now. We'll be launching that campaign statewide next Friday. And it's been an incredible process. So to learn a little more about what this Prosecutorial Accountability campaign would look like, I'd like to pass it to my friend Michelle Pearson.
Before I get into what I'm going to speak on, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm a justice advisor, new member of Michigan Liberation. My name is Michelle Pearson. I am 53. I am a former juvenile lifer, and what that means is at the age of 17, I was sentenced to die in prison. I was sentenced to life without parole. Because I was 17 years old, when the laws changed, they said it was cruel and unusual to have sentenced us to such harsh punishment. So I was resentenced to 38 to 60 years, and I returned to society last year, and I'll be released on parole next year. We speak on prosecutorial accountability, and I don't know, it's a passion. This is my passion, is to get with this, because how many of y'all out there know what a prosecutor is, what they do, and how they're voted into office? Like Oakland County with Jessica Cooper, she said that juveniles that have been incarcerated for so many years are deemed irredeemable. We're beyond redemption. I am living proof that that is a lie. I have traveled to Washington, D.C. I recently came back fighting for this very cause. we're trying to do away with life without parole because it's actually a legal death sentence. You know, and it's harsh because how many of y'all have grandkids or great-grandkids? Imagine if your grandkid is out there riding his 10-speed and accidentally hits another kid and the leg break and that kid dies. They're actually trying to send your kid to die in prison, and it's wrong. I get it, wrong is wrong, right is right. But to send somebody to die as a kid is totally wrong. And that's where we need to make our prosecutors accountable for their actions. If we're voting you in, then you be accountable for what we're voting you in to do, which means you don't send our kids away to die in prison in a system that is not fit for them to be in there.
That's right.
Okay? A juvenile lifer. As I stated, Jessica Cooper said that we are beyond redemption. Not true. And I don't know if some of y'all know that 44 out of 49 recommended for a life without parole sentence. They're among the worst in the state and in the entire country. And I don't know if you're familiar with the California laws, the 3-strike law.
Yeah.
You go in at 17, you're out at 21. You go in at Michigan, you go out in a box. This is pretty much Jessica Cooper's view on it. And that's why we want to make her accountable in Oakland County, because there are many kids that will probably follow in my footsteps as an accident. We want her to be accountable and show her that these kids are redeemable, that you need to be accountable for these kids that's out here in society while you're taking them out of schools and throwing them in the streets. They don't have rec centers. So we stand for reformative justice, you know, and it's like this is 3 years after Scott has ruled that juvenile lifers should have the chance to come home. 55% in Michigan are still waiting to go before a judge. Justice delayed is justice denied, and what we have to get the mindset of, no child is born bad. We make bad decisions and bad choices because of situations that we're in. So if we deny that justice, of course our life is delayed. You know, it's sad, but it's true. Like they said, a lot of them are coming home, and out of all the kids in Oakland County, Jessica Cooper is trying to keep them with that life without parole. Give them a chance. They are redeemable. I've lived with them. Many of us got a college education. It's hard coming out because they don't want to give us a job, but we're college educated. You know, we have certifications and degrees. So we came out to be productive citizens. So we're asking y'all to help us make these prosecutors accountable for these juveniles that are looking at going into a system that is not rehabilitative. It doesn't rehabilitate your kids, it destroys them. It destroys them. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my friend and comrade, Shelly and Andrew.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Shelly Lyons-Mack. I am friends with Michelle. Michelle and I met one another when we were teenagers. I was 19 years old when I became involved with the Michigan Department of Corrections. I committed a couple of larcenies under $200, and I got sentenced to prison. It was during the 1980s, during the mass incarceration model that was so popular. You know, prosecutors, the big campaigns were prosecute, prosecute, prosecute. I spent 30 years of my life, 30 years of my life in and out of prison. It wasn't until, I want to say probably about 2015-ish, that I was finally diagnosed with a bipolar disorder. Wow. Thanks a lot. None of the professionals that I was surrounded with could have caught that at 19. So at 50 years old, I was just completing parole. Many of the situations that people face when they come home are no resources. Because what happens most of the time, by the time you end up going to jail or prison, you've pretty much made everybody that you know mad at you. So you don't have a lot of family support. You know, you sit in there for years and life goes on for everyone else, right? So you come home to not a lot of family or community support, inability to get a job. inability to find housing. I'm Oakland County's 2019 Emmett Jones Memorial Award winner, which means that I get an A for housing, right? I'm homeless. I'm homeless right now. And my reign isn't even over as the 2019 winner. I'm very passionate about diversion courts. I think that had I had someone or an avenue at least to be mentally evaluated correctly, someone should have seen past my insane behavior. I know looking back now, I can see it was absolutely wonker. I was out of my mind. Someone in that professional field should have caught that. 30 years it cost me. When I was finally made to be on medication, it was part of my parole stipulation, I finished parole in 6 months. 6 months. What had taken me 30 years of going in and out of jail, in and out of prison, back and forth, back and forth. In the interim, I had children. You know, I'm in and out of prison. I'm doing what, normal 20-somethings do. And I had children. Well, now my children are going through this whole cycle with me. It's just a devastating thing to look at my life. I'm an author. I'm a published author. I'm an entertainer. I have a big show tomorrow. I do some really cool stuff. And to think that 30 years of my life was put on hold because of a mental diagnosis. Wow. That's sad. It's very sad. So I'm passionate about not letting this happen to another person. Not one more single solitary person. By not changing this system, we are promoting broken families. Broken families are broken communities. Broken communities are crappy places to live. And then we end up with a United States of America that looks the way that it does now. It starts with one family, one household at a time. Broken down, then there's a missing link. Then you go to the next person that's missing the link, and the next person that's missing the link, and pretty soon your whole community is broken down. So I guess I would just say that I'm happy to be here with my friend Michelle, for one thing. I got involved with Michigan Liberation when I was speaking at the Michigan Department of Corrections. As soon as I was off parole, I began coming back to volunteer once a month at the Department of Corrections and speak to parolees about how to get off of parole, how to not get caught in that recidivism cycle that's based in economic disparity and racism. And right here in Oakland County. That's where I'm from. I'm from Oakland County. But I met Julia and Tim. They heard me speak and they were like, oh, it was Julia, Tim, and Earl. They were like, we are going to get her when we're done with this meeting. And they were speaking my language of social change, of change in the criminal justice system. And that's how I got involved. And I went to a meeting one night, and sitting across from me was Michelle Pearson. The last time I saw Michelle Pearson was in Michigan prison. I never thought that I was going to see her face outside of prison. And she was in a Michigan Liberation meeting. I think everyone in here can probably attest to the fact that I was like, I couldn't speak for a minute. It was amazing. But I just want to stress the importance of diversion courts. Instead of going through the traditional court hearing process and criminalizing behaviors, we need to have some diversion courts in place so that people don't end up sitting in prison away from their families, away from their children. There is a generational effect of incarceration. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to my son, Andrew. I'd like to say he's my boyfriend, but...
First of all, I'd like to say, kind of to touch on what my mother was saying, and yes, this is my mother. Growing up was very difficult, especially with her going through the system the way that she did. Ultimately, my grandmother helped raise me, and there were brief periods where she was involved in my life, but when she was, usually she wasn't doing what she was supposed to be doing. You know, usually because of everything that she had been through and because of her undiagnosed mental illness, you know, it made things very difficult. And growing up, I know any child that grows up without their parents has issues, and they have difficulties that they have to go through. Unfortunately, when I was around 13 years old, I got involved with drugs. I started doing drugs, started drinking, and started trying to basically find the best solution that I could try to find at the moment to stop what was going on internally. And I had my first brush with the law at 18 years old. I think I stole a fifth, is what it was. Yeah, I think I was 18 years old, I stole a fifth, so, you know, ended up going to jail, and that started a long cycle with me of being involved with the Department of Corrections and with probation. I've officially been to rehab, court ordered, I've sat in jail, I've done drug court, and ultimately I ended up going to prison. Unfortunately, I went to prison for $5 worth of drugs, and I ended up serving 2 years in prison for that charge. Through this entire process, it was almost the same thing. Instead of the courts kind of seeing where I was coming from and dealing with some of those underlying issues, the thought has always been, you do the crime, you do the time. And unfortunately, I got lost in the system as well. And it took me a long time to get finally out of the system. I think in 2016, I finally made it off of parole.
Before me.
Yeah, we actually, real close to each other. Yeah, ultimately, you know, I still had a lot of those same underlying issues. And right now, I'm actually currently a Milford local. I ended up going to the sober houses out here. But I think it's important to emphasize that I didn't do it because the court sent me to. I didn't do it because I was court ordered to or I was in legal trouble. I did it because I needed to get my life together. And I needed help. And as opposed to just being punished and thrown in a cell and basically forgotten, I actually decided to come out here and actually got the help that I needed and the help that I wish I would have gotten when I was in the system. But unfortunately, that's not how our system is geared. And that's why we're here tonight, is to try to maybe change the thinking as opposed to taking that hard-nosed approach to maybe have a little bit more compassion and understanding and understand that people have problems, people have things that they're going through, and to just throw away a person's life and to lock them up and throw away the key and basically just make them a number as opposed to a human being isn't the solution. So thank you, appreciate it.
James used to be my bunkie when we were at sides, so we take certain liberties and whatnot. Well, I'm going to talk about district courts. This is a map of the district court system in Oakland County. We have 14 district courts in Oakland County. This chart shows the felony convictions, which was the, did everybody see that? Versus the civil or traffic infractions in district courts. I mean, that's ridiculous there. 9.5, 504, you know, that's the 43rd district court. You know, we've seen a lot of these abuses, especially in the 43rd district court, which is Hazel Park. I personally have family members that live along that 8-mile corridor. My sister-in-law is a church secretary and as quiet as anybody in this room, hardly ever says anything. But I mentioned to my brother that we were court watching in Oakland County, and she jumped up, "Get they ass!" And, you know, that just goes to show you. This here is a racial breakdown by the district court. This is the percentage of the population in the red. As you can see, there are large non-white portions of in just the 4 Oakland County court jurisdictions. When we were court watching in Hazel Park, their population is less than 10% people of color. But during the times that we were court watching, 80% of the people that went before the bench were people of color, you know, and that disparity is just, and I mean, the abuses that they do, the fines, they're criminalizing being poor because you can't afford to pay for the tethers, which is $360 to get the tether. It's like $70 a week for supervision of the tethers. And then probation fees, court costs. I mean, just a civil infraction or a traffic infraction for something as simple as driving without a license or no operator's permit on person ends up costing people who can least afford to pay it hundreds of dollars, you know. And we've learned this when we were doing the Mother's Day bailout, and we found out that, you know, this was something that should be our major focus, the district courts. 1 in 10 non-white individuals were arrested in Ferndale, Michigan. Now, let's see, there's what, 50 people out here? Could you imagine 5 of you all being arrested just for, you know, I mean, and this is happening regularly, not just one-time event. Like, of all the people, that 1 out of 10 people of color were arrested in these district courts. Well, this is our main focus, and this is something that we were working on, you know. There are district courts in Oakland County that work outside of the policies of Oakland County. You know, they have their own fiefdoms, for lack of a better word, where they charge people, and they're funding their municipalities through the fees and whatnot that they collect from these courts, you know. Fortunately, none of you all probably live in the southern part of Oakland County, where they, you know, have what we call border patrols, where, you know, they sit out on 8 Mile and target the poor people from Detroit that they know probably can't afford the insurance, or driving without insurance, or some other civil infraction, you know. So that's one of our major focuses that we're doing in court watching in Oakland County now. We're trying to hold them accountable too. Our court watching program is where we have volunteers come along with some of us, and we take the statistics of who appears before the judges, what their sentences are, and I mean, the results are shocking. You know, we have the statistics. We don't necessarily have them to show them to you right now, but if we did, you would agree that something needs to be done. So we're going to offer everybody that it might be interested a chance to sign up to come court watching with us to see for yourself. It's like unbelievable. You know, you leave there shaking your head. And that's about it that we have for our court watching programs. We have the certain courts, like the 43rd District in Hazel Park, the District Court in Bloomfield, which you wouldn't imagine as being a problem, but it is, and Rochester, other places in Oakland County that are extremely, you know, outside of the parameters of the policies for Oakland County. They're like the Wild West. They run it the way they do. Judge Roy Beam in charge or something. Okay, and so like I said, we're going to invite everybody that might be interested to sign up to come do a court watching with us. We'd love to have you, you know, so you can see for yourself what it's about. Now, James, now you can tell.
Good evening. My name is James Hill. You can imagine that I went through quite a few changes being his cellmate. No, he's really good people. What was surprising about him is he was so well read, because a lot of guys, they read things that novels, Wild West and that, but he was reading things that was educational, and I was like, oh, this dude weird. But it was the kind of weirdness that I enjoyed, because I learned a lot being around him. I've just come home after 30 years incarcerated here in Michigan. I got out on the 26th of March, and I'm telling you that my feet hasn't hit the ground yet. I'm still on cloud 9. So if I tell you that I enjoy being here and I like what I'm seeing, believe that it's a lot different than seeing everybody in uniforms, okay? So here we're dealing with some statistics. It would impact most of your wallet when you, whether you're working or have a business or whatever you pay taxes on. We got, just in Oakland County alone, 18,124 people arrested. Basically the same number, 17,976 people that is released.
So it's a revolving door. It's just Oakland County alone. We're not talking about the state of Michigan. But on average, the state of Michigan is costs about $36,106 per person to have incarcerated. Okay, but that's not true. It's much more serious than this. Okay, I mean the human toll, the amount of money it costs families. You know, we got communities you'll go through in Detroit or Pontiac, and it looks like somebody dropped a bomb on them. What has happened? See, and then most of the men has been removed from the community. So they come back after they serving the sentence, they can't get jobs, they can't get housing. I'm one of them. I'm 69 years old. I've done probably a combined total of 43 years locked up. The first 10, I didn't learn nothing but how to be more stupid, you know? And I came out in a worse conditions before I went in, and far more desperate. So the activities that I engaged in were detrimental to my community. Now when I do go in, I'm a little old, I can't be doing the same thing now. Now I learned a little more, I done matured a little more, hopefully. And so now I'm ready to come out and be a productive citizen. So when I come out, can't get my driving license. They say, well, I was arrested with 2 felonies within a period of 7 years, so my license have to be suspended. Well, I just finished 30 years. I've already been punished. So they had to have a hearing, which took about 4 months, 4 to 5 months to have a hearing. After the hearing, it took over a month and a half for them to make a decision. When they finally did make a decision, the decision was that I could get this driver's permit after 31 years, really, now about 31 years. I can get this driver's permit, but I can only use it to take a road test. I can't practice like everybody else? I mean, how do the state of Michigan benefit by these rules, this ruling? Then when I do get the license, I can only drive from 6 in the morning to 7 at night. Okay, when everything started happening, I have to stop. I can't drive anymore. I have to depend on other people. Right now, I'm depending on family members. And they get tired. I mean, they love me, but after they get jobs, they got their businesses, and they want to take me almost everywhere, even to the cleaners. I'd go, oh, wow. So it's a lot of wear and tear on them. And then plus, I'm an independent man person. I hate to ask for anything. Okay? Now I'm getting SSI. I get $514. I don't know about y'all, but I don't know who could live on $514. And the corrections department is asking for $80 of that at the end of this month, okay, to pay for supervision. So I had a job that I could get driving, but one of the stipulations is that I can't drive commercially. Oh, so now I can't get a job? I mean, how many people is hiring, 69-year-old men with felons on his record, okay? So now, what am I supposed to do? Do I become angry? Do I allow desperation to grab me? What am I supposed to do? And who's going to be punished if I did get angry and desperate? Who would be the ones that would suffer the brunt of that? Regular citizens. Regular citizens, which is what the recidivism rate is all about here. Because people can't get jobs. They run into all these other barriers. Now, I'm staying with a family member. Well, that's a lot of love they showing for me to be there, but, I need to be in my own place. So I sought to be moving to an apartment. I'm a senior citizen. I should be in my own place. I'm still independent. Well, my background, I'm a felon. Wow. What am I to do? So how do we change this? So we're looking at the black men and women, the unemployment, that still don't really talk about. And this is just from ages 35 to 44. I'm not even in that category. Even though this is a large number, you start talking about 46% people, for 35% of certain people. We know the racial disparity, but for anybody not to be able to be gainfully employed, it should be something that we all are against. Especially when they're healthy, when their mind is still active, they can be productive. Well, I can't. So I'm sitting on the sidelines watching life go by. No, I'm not sitting. I'm with Michigan Liberation. Okay, we are organized to do something about this. We got to change this. We can't just sit back and say, well, it's helpless, that's just the way things are. No, that's not the way things should be. And we should, whether you are directly impacted or not, just as a decent human being, you should be irate as to what's taking place here. Nobody should suffer like this. I mean, I've already done the time. I'm still suffering. There's still barriers put up. We call it the new Jim Crow. These barriers prevents me from, getting home, moving to certain places, or getting the job. And not even just driving. Come on. What legitimate interest does it serve the state of Michigan? None. But these are the things that's going on until you look into it, like we're talking about the cash bail system. Until you look into it yourself, you won't have any idea that these things are really going on, and it's going on in your name, the people of the state of Michigan. See, because when I went to prison, it was state of Michigan versus me. Okay, now I'm out. What do I do now? I have to work with these people as hard as I can to make a change. And I'm hoping that we'll get some help out of this room too, because I've seen them hands go up. When you go on door to door canvassing, you're activists, okay, by any definition, and I love that. So you have the same mindset that things can be changed. And this is what we have to do. We have to zero in on these different, they're not really statistics, because they go far beyond that, the cost that it takes and just people suffering. Not just the economic toll, but even this, when people go to prison, I stayed there for 37 years. I know how many people on psychotropic drugs. I know the medical problem that people go through there. There's a whole lot of expense to having people locked up. And then coming back out, what we're going through now, I mean, it's insane. This system has to be turned around. So we're talking about criminal justice reform. Yes, we need that like yesterday. Thank you. Excuse me. I got so caught up in what I was suffering. Here's some of the solutions that we're working on. Here's one of the solutions. I have a lot of business ideas. I've studied business. My education wasn't formal. I went to different university classes that I took up in there because I was determined this time to elevate myself. So I had to learn various things. I studied business law, various things, entrepreneurship. We are pushing the Oakland County Treasurer to start a pilot program for returning citizens for entrepreneurship. It's people who may not be able to get a job, but maybe they can create jobs with the ideas and the hustle that they have. Just still shouldn't just be parked to the side and left to die or left to commit other crimes to go back to prison. So here we are pushing the Oakland County Treasurer to do more micro loans and to have entrepreneur classes. Then guys, I read a story of one guy from Texas. Texas had entrepreneur classes in prison. And he got out of prison and he couldn't get a job because of his background. Today he said he thanked God for that, because he took what he learned as an entrepreneur and put it to work, and now his payroll is $10,000 a week, other people that he's hiring, okay? So it can happen if you have the knowledge, if somebody can walk you through it. The hardest thing for a black man to get is a business loan, okay? So we need this microloan desperately. So if anybody ever talked to the county treasurers, Andy Miser, you talk to him, they just started this program. They're not pushing for the microloans yet. I went in as one of the persons that they are trying to help, teach this, and I love it. And they seem dedicated with it, I'm doing my business plan now. But we need to expand this program to a broader people who need it, because maybe they can't start get a job, but they can start a business and hire other people.
Just wanted to tell you, Andy Miser is coming to our January meeting.
Well, wonderful.
He's
already been here before.
Oh, yes.
We're going to talk to him about
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So I intend to learn all I can. I'm working with the deputy treasurer, which is Rita. How you pronounce her last name? Okay. Napsco. Okay, I'm working with a very charming woman. I think she used to teach literacy, financial literacy. she's helpful. And so now she's waiting on me to come in with my plan to help me. But I'm gonna need a whole lot of help, I know that. So, I mean, if he's come in, definitely give your support for this program, for entrepreneurship, and push for them to get more involved or focused and committed on microloans, because that's the only way it's gonna become a reality. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you all so much for allowing us to come here and for taking the time to listen to us. I wanted to stress why Oakland now, why we're working in Oakland County, because we know that Oakland County has all kinds of resources that can support returning citizens and their families with housing, employment, and transportation. Those are all urgent needs. Those are things that have to happen today, right now, in everyone's life. Everyone needs those things every day. There's also a strong bipartisan appeal. The community values any kind of cost savings. It will improve the economic performance of the county and promote more community safety. Less desperate people means less dangerous people. There's also a lot of widespread grassroots engagements in Oakland County. So the ballots, the generating more interest in our ballots. There are also some very important key seats that are open right now for the executive, prosecutor, and judges in Oakland County that we'll be voting on in 2020. And plus, Oakland County has a huge effect. We can have a huge effect here on leading the charge around the state, because the state looks at Oakland County. They view Oakland County as one of the wealthiest, most influential counties in the state. So why not Oakland County? Our central mission is to build leadership through impacted people, which is this panel that you see here today. We want to take people that are close to the problem because they are the closest to the solution, and oftentimes, more than not, with the least resources. So we know what the answers are. We can tell you from the inside out, but we just don't have the means of making those things happen, unfortunately. Also, through organizing, we seek to transform this entire narrative and to bring people and resources to the table together to seek some real reform, not just talk about it. We want to bring people together, the people that need it and the people that can provide it, and find a middle ground. That's very important to us. And how you can get involved. Because you never want to present people with a whole bunch of problems. We can all gripe all day, right? Who wants to gripe about a bunch of stuff and never have a solution? The solutions are ways to get involved. And by getting involved, maybe you know an impacted person or somebody that's interested in working on these issues. I would find it hard to find anyone that doesn't know somebody that has a grandson, an uncle, or an aunt, or a sister, or a brother that has been impacted by the criminal justice system. It's too widespread. It's in every home, just about every family. We also, we need to bring not just impacted people together, but we have to do research meetings on elected officials. Those are some of the things that we need to do as a team. In order to do those things, we've got to carpool. We've got to meet each other at our favorite Tim Hortons. We drink a lot of coffee. You know, it takes resources to print up these pamphlets, to get people. I don't drive. I know a few other people here that don't drive. You know, it takes resources. It takes other people to say, hey, we've got the car, we've got the gas, we're going to do it. Also, we are looking into data analysis and organizational support. A lot of that data analysis is stuff that you saw here today. Some of that data is data that's never been seen before in the court systems. Is that silly? Does that sound silly? Like, so that data that we compiled, we were asked to compile that by Jessica Cooper's office because they don't have that data in Oakland County. How can you I spent a lot of my life in courtrooms. I'm not real happy to go back in any. But it is very important because maybe you might not know, but there are no fact sheets or data sheets on judge statistics or prosecutor statistics. There is no database that you can go to and say, how many people does this court send to prison and what do they send them for? That data doesn't exist. You can't look up a prosecutor and say, what are their conviction rates? That data doesn't exist. What? You are controlling people's lives. You are changing the course of an entire genealogy. You see the generational effect, right? So how can you not have that kind of data? We're trying to compile all of that. We're trying to come up, we're climbing a pretty steep hill, but we are determined. We have a whole lot of skin in the game. I think up here between all of us, there's probably about 150, 160 years of prison. That's a lot of skin in the game. I'm very dedicated to making sure that my grandchildren, your grandchildren, or my son's grandchildren don't end up in this cycle. So our big ask is that if you find it in your hearts or connected with anything that we say, please consider donating and helping us. We need all the help we can get, and we are not a very resource-wealthy group up here. So I just want to once again say thank you so very much. We really appreciate all of the time that you've given us and welcomed us so warmly.
Yeah. HTTPS My Liberation, you will see a donate link, and it's tied to Act Blue. So this is misleading because it looks like you need to email it. No, you can go right on your phone or whatever and make a donation right through this donate link to Act Blue. And this helps pay for things like our Justice Fellows. So, you know, if we can afford it, we like to bring people on board to be formal Justice Fellows and to help us in our work.
Go ahead. Can you repeat the website?
Liberation. Just Google Michigan Liberation. You'll come to the site. It's a one-page site. We really need to, if anybody has media skills, please help us. It's been my job to work on the website. You know, just there's only so many hours in a day. So we can really use help, but it's right there on the website. Scroll down to the bottom, and there's the donate link.
A question for Andrew. Is the sober homes, is that Rut Readers?
Yes. Yep.
And you had pretty good experience with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't speak for anybody else up here. I've been to a few sober living homes, and a lot of times, I hate to say it, a lot of the times, you know, they're really heavily involved with Michigan Department of Corrections, and they're in a pretty bad neighborhood. And the few that I've been in, there was literally a crack house like 5 doors down. You know, and they're not very structured. That's the other thing. Most of the places that I've been to don't have a lot of structure or a lot of discipline. This place out here, and this is kind of what I was telling my mom on the way out here, this place doesn't play games with you. If you're not here to try to get your life together and do what you need to do to really start to address some of those underlying issues, they'll kick you out because you're not really serious about trying to get your life in order and to truly be in recovery.
Because I know Rut's a friend of mine, and
Yeah.
a former student of mine too. But his, this community, there's a shock. This community, it was several people were up in arms,
Yes,
and they had
I've heard
things at Michigan, Milford Memories. They had flyers going out. Do you know who's moving next door?
Yeah.
And the community has really, a lot of people have really warmed up to it, and it sounds like it's being very successful.
You know, the interesting thing is like in active addiction, I'm a horrible human being. I will steal, I will, you know, do whatever I have to continue that cycle. But when I'm sober, and I know for a lot of the guys in the house is when I'm sober, I'm the best employee, I'm honest, I'm open about what I'm doing, and I'm really truthfully not a bad person at all. It's just, I get caught up in that cycle, and it's so easy to compromise who you are, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So, you know, being sober though, we're some of the finest people I've ever met, some of the smartest people, most talented. people I've ever met in my entire life have been people that have had the same problems that I've had. You know?
My dad was an alcoholic, so.
Yeah.
If I can add to that, I've been through, I've had Andrew in, I can't tell you how many different rehabs. I fought with him physically. He's a lot bigger than me.
Yeah.
And I fought very hard to get him out here. You know, I mean, being involved in the system myself, I'm very prolific in what the different programs are and what they offer. And I fought very hard to get Andrew into the programs out here because honestly, what Milford has going with the sober houses here are probably the best that I've come across in all of my, you know, my dealings with the system. So.
He's going. My son went through the program too, and a program like that is keeping people from going to jail.
Yeah.
And guys that have gone to jail, it keeps them from re-entering. So that is a program that is working, but people in our own community, like he said, we're trying to shut it down. I think readers are having to go there every other month to protect their program. But these guys are working in the stores and in the restaurants. The restaurants love these people because they're the best employees they have.
Yeah. We're on time.
They're on time.
We don't show up drunk. We don't show up hungover. We don't show up high.
Like he said, if they do, they're out of the house. There's a lot of counseling that goes along with that. Group counseling, they have to go to AA meetings. So that's a program keeping people out. A lot of you people up there, if you would have had this program in your community or were out here, you wouldn't have been 30 years in jail, 40 years in jail. You could have got the help you needed 40 years ago. But that's what it takes in these communities.
This is also why we're doing a prosecutorial accountability campaign. We need to demand this of our prosecutor, that they stop sending folks to jail and start investing. We can divest all this money we're spending from our jails and start investing in not just having this great golden rule or golden exception here in Milford. It should be in Pontiac. It should be in Hazel Park, Detroit, right? This is where Birmingham. Yeah, sure. Heck yeah, man, everywhere. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you folks.
Yeah, we can demand diversion. We can. Yeah.
You know, we as a society have bought into the prison industrial complex. We don't have private prisons per se or private jail in Oakland County. Certainly have a prison in Oakland County and Huron Valley. But I've read the contracts. I've FOIA'd all the contracts from Oakland County. And that was some damn interesting reading because you see how much money and the commodification and the extortion that is exacted on people who are impacted in the system who have loved ones. And I still get emails every month. I signed up for emails from our famous food service company and that serves 72 cents a day is what it per meal is what the cost of the meals, and yet for and it's just ridiculous. But yet, if I buy Missin' You pack from this service, then I can send my loved one like 50 candy bars for $100. It's extortion. So I really, really recommend that all you folks kind of think about this from the business standpoint as well. So the county outsources these expensive services like food and medical services and communication. So now if you go to the jail in Oakland County to see your loved one, you have to pay IC Solutions $7 to see your inmate on a screen. You can't even see them in person anymore. That's wrong.
Yes.
I also want to say, in case everybody was wondering, it tastes like a 70-cent meal.
Julia,
Aramark.
can I piggyback off what you were saying? Julia spoke on the meals that they serve. Airmac. Yeah. It's a food company. I just left there. The food that comes in, you know how food delivers on a truck? On the side of that truck, it says not fit for human consumption.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Yes.
What?
We are literally, you taxpayers are literally, I'm not telling you nobody told, I'm telling you what I seen. they're feeding us slop. You know the white corn you feed the pigs? The meat, we called it mystery meat because a lot of it came with maggots, a lot of it came with rocks, a lot of it came with oil. And that's what they're using your money to feed the women and men in county and prison jails. As far as medical, I watched 12 women die within 30 days before I came home. Because their solution was drink extra water, take Tylenol, and elevate your feet. They need mental health. I watched 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, 17-year-old girls cutting themselves, hanging themselves, and swallowing stuff because mental health would not help them. Their things was, we'll give you 3 injections, we'll give you 5 different pills, we'll dope you up and strip you down naked. That's what your money is paying.
Yes. I was asking Michelle if, concerning Jessica Cooper, has she met you face to face?
She met us at the FOP gala.
But you personally?
Yes, ma'am.
Talked to you, got to know you at all?
Oh, no. No, I mean, there's no kind of engagement like that.
She hasn't
You
talked to
just,
me more
it's
than
a
she heard my
slippy,
story.
sliding
I'm
Kelly.
watching on count. I have spoken with some of them, but I have yet to have a conversation with Ms. Cooper, but I look forward to it.
Well, I think we all do. That would be great.
Thank you.
You said that the district courts operate like a little fiefdom, and they don't follow the Oakland County regulations, or whatever governs them.
Are they guidelines or regulations?
Are the guidelines, whatever, is there a way for the county commissioners to enforce whatever guidelines, regulations at Oakland County, because they fund them, set?
As a matter of fact, that is one thing that we're trying to lobby the commissioners about. I've recently been appointed to the advisory board of the Community Corrections Department, and that includes the pretrial services. And they're trying to get in some of those district courts, but the district courts have the option of whether or not they want to be involved. And they've opted out because
So if they opt out, are they still funded by Oakland
Yep.
County?
yes, they are.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
Okay, I will just tell you, I'm running for county commissioner, so we might see you around.
Okay. We will do that. I've got one particular ask. Every Wednesday at 6 to 8, we have our core group meetings at 7 North Saginaw in downtown Pontiac. Well, at the 20th of November, we're having our first monthly assembly. We have 2 speakers lined up. One is Tisha Doyle. She's from the Cannabis Legal Group. She's going to talk about expungement, and I don't know if this is interesting to you all or not, but she's also going to talk about the cannabis laws and how they might affect some of you all. And we have Mike McCullum, who is the statewide director for the Elizabeth Warren for President. And these will be the 2 speakers at our monthly assembly, and I'm giving each one of you all an invitation to come. Love to see you all there.
Okay, we'll get that, we'll put that down on our list of upcoming events, and so people will be reminded of that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We're going to have to wrap it up. I'm so sorry if we could stay here all night. Thank you so very much.
If you want to volunteer, I forgot to bring in the sign-up sheets.
You know what?
If you want to volunteer.
I'll handle that. We'll get a
Yeah, if you
volunteer
would.
thing going, and
Yeah, come and court watch with us. If you have a business background or a legal background, we could sure use your help. We just had a session on Friday. Earl attended that on our behalf, where we had recruited a bunch of engineers and finance people, geeks for justice. And they were doing data analysis for us. And so that's the kind of thing, I think it's fun to do data analysis and financial statement analysis and dig into what is right there in our county numbers. So if that's fun for you, let us know.